Hello again, kiddies. Welcome to another episode of the Golden Age of Boxing. Well, today, this one is for user TS6UR3PE4K, otherwise known to the masses as Johnny Shoeshine Guy. One of the greatest to ever enter the ring, he was once told by the great Smoking Joe Frazier that he had 3 strikes against him in the world of boxing: that he was black, that he was southpaw, and that he was good. But these 3 things did not upset the marvelous Marvin Hagler. It only strengthened his resolve to lay waste to every opponent until none were left to clear the field. His workout regimen was hardcore. He never stopped training, never stopped progressing, even on the bad end of some bad official calls. He never gave in or said he had enough. One of the 4 kings of boxing, Hagler was more like one of the 4 horsemen, specifically the Horseman War, which was something he would chant when jogging during training. War! 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 A true pugilist, a master of the fine art, southpaw or orthodox, he could change smoothly and transition between either a counter puncher and aggressive with one of the most cast iron jaws ever to step into the ring. Hagler showcased speed with smart power in both finesse and all-out brutal slugfest brawls. Hagler was born in New Jersey, abandoned by his father and one of 6 kids. Soon after the riots in New Jersey, he left with his mom and moved to Brockton, Massachusetts, the home of Rocky Marciano. And one day in Brockton, Hagler entered a gym, the Petronelli gym, as a matter of fact, and just sat there watching the men in the ring. Eventually, a trainer come up and asked him if he wanted to learn boxing. And that's all Hagler needed, was someone to teach him what to do with these, his fists. That's all he needed, was someone to guide him in the right direction. His first 30 fights have been lost to time due to Hagler's unknown nature. He had falsified documents to begin his career early. He decided not to waste time waiting on the Olympics, so he decided to turn pro. A true pugilist, as I said, Hagler was a great southpaw, but was just as devastating orthodox, able to transition to either effortlessly in between punches. For 8 years, Hagler fought by night and was a construction worker by day, earning only maybe a few $100s for each fight. He had to push his way into the fight game. The corrupt world of boxing at the time had seen Hagler fight 46 fights and still hadn't earned a chance at a title shot. His record of 44-2 warranted a title shot. For the only 2 losses he had, he'd come back and obliterated those boxers in a rematch. Outside the ring, Marvin Hagler was a well-spoken gentleman who had a true hard work ethic in everything he did. In ring and training, he displayed the same work ethic, but he was dealing with a beast inside, a monster that called for nothing less than war. And if you had to fight marvelous Marvin Hagler, it's best you eat your Wheaties and maybe even get your will in order. For to go toe-to-toe, let alone defeat Hagler, you had to be willing to go to hell and fight your way back out. For Hagler was the pinnacle of stamina and reckless abandon. To face Hagler was to go to the ends of the earth, look down in the abyss, give it the middle finger, and then jump on sheer will and determination. Hagler's ruthless aggression had made him a fan favorite, but his style and the inability to control Hagler made him the enemy of the established and corrupt hierarchy of the boxing world, which kept Hagler's name out of any contention for the title. It took Hagler 2 years to get a title shot, finally, and that would come and was possible due to a Senator Kennedy who opened up inquiries into why Hagler was not given a shot. His first title shot was against the champion, Vito Antuofermo. Finally, at Caesar's Palace, he had his chance. The fight went to the wire, with Hagler winning in many people's opinion as far as and my own. And though he was ahead on the unofficial scorecards, the bout was called a draw, conferring all the things Hagler thought he saw was wrong with the world of boxing. At the end of the fight press conference, the Marvelous One spoke his frustrations, saying he could never again leave it in the officials' hands or in the judges' hands. The only thing he had to do was take his two hands and finish the fight and win it with no contest. With the draw behind him, Hagler then faced an undefeated and a rising star, Hamani. Hagler ended up knocking Hamani completely through the ropes onto the table of the announcers, utterly destroying him. In 4 years, Hagler had only a draw other than his victories on his record. He had an impressive 22 straight fights with no losses. His next fight was against a man named Watts and was a marvelous slugfest, with Hagler feeding Watts bombs after bomb after bomb until Watts finally kissed canvas. Finally, it was time for Hagler to have another title shot. This title shot was at Wembley Stadium in England against the new champion and Englishman, Alan Minter, who had beaten Antuofermo. Alan Minter had previously stated he would never lose the title to a black man. Well, that was all Hagler needed to hear. Well, Minter was the heavy favorite due to being an Englishman in Wembley Arena, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler had nothing but that business look in his eye when he entered the ring. The fight opened up, and Hagler opened up the fight by dropping pure bombs, butchering Minter through 3 rounds, even seeing a graceful blast from his gazelle punch. Round 3 saw the fight stop, and this when you saw Hagler become the new middleweight champion of the world, the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. But he was not able to celebrate in the ring because the British crowd, in their frustration, showered Hagler and his people with cans, bottles, anything they could throw. They had to get Hagler out of the ring, and he was the only boxer to ever win a championship and not receive his belt in ring. And that was very frustrating for Hagler, and he kept that in his mind through his training throughout the years. Now Hagler was getting real paydays, and being the undisputed champion, Hagler did not rest on his laurels. Hagler's training became harder, faster, longer. Hagler had stated he got here the hard way, and it was going to be the hard way for someone to take the belt from him. He would not allow it. He was going to be here for a long time. Now, his first title defense was against Fulgencio Obamejas, the #1 contender. Hagler was probably in his best condition ever and displayed to the world how he was the master of his aggressive style. Hagler was dead on target, with the ref calling the fight. The next fight was a rematch with Vito Antuofermo, the man who he had faced in his first title fight. At the outset of round 1, they both bumped heads, opening up a cut on Antuofermo's head. But Vito kept going. They ended up calling the fight in the 4th, giving Hagler a defensive win. Next, another title defense where Hagler was dropping pure warheads on his opposition. Hagler had said, and I quote, he said he would knock me off. He's got a nasty smile on his face. I don't like it. I'm going to take that smile away from him. And I did. And he did. Opened up multiple cuts on Honcho's head. Honcho was leveled by Hagler's relentless barrage of combos, counters, and haymakers. Marvelous Marvin Hagler had a 1-inch temporalis muscle that wrapped around his forehead, protecting his temple. A normal human has around a 1/4 inch thick. So this had Hagler almost like he was wearing natural headgear, which made his iron chin that much more granite. His next title defense saw Hagler end the fight with one of the most brutal yet on-target multiple combo sets ever witnessed in the squared circle. Lee suffered a barrage from Hagler that didn't miss one lick. Lee kissed the canvas, yet to his credit, got back up but on wobbly legs. When the fight restarts, Hagler comes in, hits Caveman with a right, then a left hook to the head, damn near decapitating the Caveman. And in 1 minute 7 seconds, Hagler had KO'd Caveman in pure aggressive fashion. Now, the Marvelous One was far more than just a brutal hurt bomber, because he would spend months before each fight alone, a self-inflicted isolation for weeks on end in Providence, Massachusetts at the abandoned Providence Inn, a very sinister horror movie looking place, a place Hagler's inner monster blamed his opponent for being there, training ever harder. As he would jog, snowing, rain, sleep, he would chant, "War! War! War!" And that's what he was war. And war was what he was gonna bring. His training built endless reserves of endurance and stamina, almost android-like, having the ability to either mark his opponent in one shot or push his opponent to the limits of their stamina and beyond, wearing them down ever so faster and faster. Now, with 5 title defenses under his belt, Marvelous Marvin Hagler rattled off a few more quick defenses when the boxing world started speaking about wanting to see a Hagler-Leonard fight. Hagler was all in, wanting that big payday everyone knew the fight would bring, but Sugar Ray kept shying away. Now, at the same time, ABC Sports, for some reason, refused to call Marvin Hagler Marvelous, saying he had to go to court if he wanted to have Marvelous as his tagline. So what did Hagler do? Something straight gangster, in my opinion. He went to court and had his name legally changed to Marvelous Marvin Hagler, making ABC Sports call him Marvelous. It was then that they discovered that Hagler was actually 28, not 30. Now, Hagler's next opponent was a second chance for Fulgencio Albamejas, who for some stupid reason guaranteed he was going to take out Marvelous Marvin Hagler and win the title. Now, whatever effect Albamejas thought he would have, all it did was motivate Marvin Hagler to train even harder, motivating him to want to destroy this upstart. The fight was in San Remo, Italy, and we saw Hagler stalking Albamejas around the ring, punishing him constantly with barrages of straights, body shots, hooks, uppercuts. Then a blazing right hand KO'd him for the final time. Now, the Hagler-Leonard crew was pushing hard for this fight. Everyone wanted to see it, but Sugar Ray Leonard kept shying away. So next in Hagler's crosshairs was Tony Simpson. Hagler's record at this time was 55 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws with 46 KOs, and the 2 losses had been avenged. A very impressive record. And now it was Simpson's turn to find out what Hagler was about. In this fight, Hagler's shots were dead on target, maybe his most complete victory, hardly missing any punches and keeping Simpson on his back foot. Simpson said it after the fight, it was like being locked in a cage of pain and watching Hagler throw away the key. Simpson was punished for 6 rounds before he finally gave it up. Now, for Hagler's 7th title defense, he faced the contender Wilfred Scipion, who had never kissed canvas. But a patented Marvelous brutal combo saw Scipion down and out KO'd. Next, Hagler was to face the first of the 4 kings, of whom Hagler is one, He was to face the Hands of Stone, the legendary Roberto Duran, the Panamanian pugilist. This fight saw two of the best to ever do it face off center ring, ready to go to war, and war is where they went. A very action-packed fight, being a steady toe-to-toe affair where they stood in the center of the ring just swapping punches. A brutal war that saw Duran go the distance with Hagler with non-stop action all the way, but Hagler had won by unanimous decision, securing a title of defense against one of the greatest boxers ever to lace up gloves. Now the Marvelous One was getting endorsements and had become the face of boxing finally. His next fight was a back-and-forth affair against Rodan, a rampaging savage boxer who scored the first ever knockdown of Hagler, though Hagler actually slipped and you could see it on film. But I guess Rodan thought he smelled blood, so he rushed in like a bull in china shop throwing haymakers, but Hagler's granite chin absorbed every one of them. And then Hagler opened up a gruesome counter and cut above Rodan's eye. One stiff jab changed the aspect of the fight. With Rodan's left eye closing, Hagler kept wearing on Rodan. Rodan, in obvious pain, did not rise off the canvas. Next was another rematch versus Hamsho, which ended in another Hagler KO. Then, in an announcement that Sugar Ray Leonard made a speech in front of Hagler and thousands, said the Hagler-Leonard fight would go down in history as one of the greatest fights ever, would earn more money than you could think, and then all of a sudden, damn, Leonard drops the ultimate bomb on Hagler in front of thousands, saying it would never happen because Leonard was retiring. Hagler was embarrassed and upset. He felt that Leonard had slapped him in the face, stringing him along for all those years, ducking, and then retiring, in front of a crowd of thousands, no less. Then, here comes the Motor City Cobra, Thomas the Hitman Hearns, a one-man annihilator who made a living murking fighters. So it was that Hearns moved up to the 160-pound weight class to face Hagler in a bona fide super fight. This was two of the four kings, Hagler versus Hearns. This fight, later known as the War. There was no love lost between these two, and at the press conference, Hearns told Hagler, "Keep that title belt by your bed. It'll be the last time you see it." And in a hilarious visual response, Hagler, dressed in a three-piece suit, having yellow napkins stuffed in each ear, said, "I can't hear you." At another press conference, Hagler showed up in a red t-shirt and a red cap, and across the front of that cap, it said "War." And that was what Hagler was going to go to the depths of Tartarus with Hearns. This super fight was everything for each man's legacy. They would go to any lengths to win. Hagler even told his corner, "Do not stop the fight. I am prepared to die in the ring if necessary." Two of the greatest yet again to ever do it, going toe-to-toe in a war of attrition to see who can claim that victory. I have a video breakdown of the War, Hagler versus Hearns, and I'll leave it in a link below. Now, it was 3 rounds of carnage, incredible firepower thrown by both for 3 rounds. War, 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 back and forth for 3 rounds. A street fight of epic dimensions. No rhyme, no reason, just bombs and chin. That was what was going to win the day. Now, Hagler KOs Hearns in the third. 3 rounds of epic mayhem and utter war. Arguably the most action-packed 3 rounds ever in boxing. Now, Hagler had one more defense before he spent a whole year away from boxing. And that was when he was lured back into the boxing ring by Sugar Ray Leonard, no less, who had come out of retirement. Leonard always was the fan favorite, and yes, one of the 4 kings. But in my opinion, he was being protected this fight, which saw a decision go to Sugar Ray Leonard. Hagler won that fight. I've seen it over and over, and every time I watch it, Hagler wins. as do many experts say the same thing I do. It was a big payday for sure, but it seemed like it was rigged from the outset because Leonard got to pick the biggest ring possible to give him a place to dance around and run from Hagler. And also, Leonard insisted on a 12-round, not a 15-round fight due to his questions of his stamina, knowing he could not go stamina to stamina with Hagler. Now, Hagler needed to make a statement in this fight against Leonard. And from the early going, Leonard was stealing rounds with a flurry of punches at the very end of the round. The fifth saw Hagler switch to southpaw, and this changed the whole aspect of the fight. The fight now went in Hagler's favor. It was all Hagler, pulverizing Leonard, dropping hurt bombs round after round after round, with Leonard's shots having little or no effect on Hagler. Many of boxing's experts saw the fight as I saw it. It was at the very least a draw, but should have been a win for the Marvelous One. And as I see it, the corrupt boxing authority at the time saw its opportunity to get some get back on Hagler for that Senate hearing that got Hagler's first title shot many years before. So, frustrated with all this, especially the obstacles he had to go through to try and get a rematch against Leonard, Hagler did something many old washed-up fighters wish they'd had done. Hagler walked away, or actually flew away, I guess, for Marvelous Marvin Hagler moved to Italy after his 8-figure payday. In Italy, he became one of the greatest and very famous movie stars, and he never looked back until his death on March 13th of 2021. He had left the sport of boxing with his health and rather enjoyed the movie stardom in Italy. The Marvelous One was a true Sith in the ring. Constant aggression, punishing punches, with constant aggression showing an opponent's weakness, with Hagler pinpointing the weakness and exploiting that said weakness with a non-stop barrage of punishment. One of the four kings of boxing, one of the greatest middleweights of all time. R.I.P. to the Marvelous One. Thank you for the memories, sir. It was an honor. And this is Big Duke 6 with his golden age of boxing. Until next time.